Welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. We have former Red Sox all-star closer Matt Barnes joins us here on the chat. Good morning, my friend. Thanks for waking up early after that stressful game one, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I wish 8:30 was early, but when you got a 1.5-year-old, 8:30 is lunchtime.
Yeah.
That's late. That's very
listen,
late.
I would tell you that would change, but that would be a lie. Like, I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they still wake up early. And I'm like, at what age do you sleep in? When does that happen?
Teenagers, maybe.
I guess.
Teenagers, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
You guys have a long way to go.
That's that's okay. There's something peaceful about the morning.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, my morning was not peaceful after that stressful game last night. I couldn't sleep. Oof. I'm still stressed out right now, but the Sox get it done, thankfully. Let's start with Garrett Crochet, who, I mean, he threw an absolute masterclass. I want to hear from you, who knows in the trenches how this stuff is supposed to look. What did he do so great last night? What did you see when you watched that masterful performance from Crochet?
Unbelievable. And that's why you go out and get a guy like that, is to be an absolute force in game one and to be a stopper when you need him to be. But number one, he was coming right after hitters like he's done all year long. He's fearless on the mound, and he's got that dog in him. And it's not going 5 or 6. It's getting into the 8th inning to allow you go straight to Chapman. For me, it looked like he had the ability early in the game to figure out what was really working for him and what wasn't. The changeup was kind of so early, and he really found the feel for the cutter, and that kind of gave him the edge to really come after those righties and the big guys inside. I mean, you like I said, you've seen it all year long, and for him to go out there and do that in game one, not only helped them secure the victory, but you have a completely fresh bullpen. I know Chapman threw 4 outs, but it really wasn't even that many pitches for a 4-out save. So words can't describe how important that is, not only to get that first win, but now the pressure is kind of off for tonight. All of the pressure is on New York in game 2.
Absolutely. I like to look at pitchers kind of like you look at goalies. There's just a completely different mental muscle that has to operate for these particular players. And like knowing that there's been so many different changes to who you can go to when it comes to certain pitches, can you just kind of walk us through kind of where, I don't know, Crochet's head would be, Bello's head would be, because now not having Giolito in the mix, I know that they have to make sure that they're just laser focused and they have the capability and the humility to do it time and time again.
Correct. Yeah, but Crochet's shown the ability to do that all year long. Yeah. And it's not even the ability to do it, it's the want, right? He wants to be that guy. And I think that is such a huge part of it. In a game where analytics play so much and it's so data-driven, you can't measure a guy's ability to want to be on the mound and want the ball in every big situation. And that, to me, is such an X factor. There's so many guys who have great stuff, but I think the number of guys that have that old school dog, you're going to have to rip the ball out of my hand, is a little bit, it doesn't exist as much, right? Yeah. So Crochet to be able to do that last night, giving the ball to Bello tonight, to me is absolutely critical. They have a little more leeway. There's a little more flexibility. If for whatever reason AC has to go to the bullpen earlier, they're not taxed. And, you know, New York last night had to use, 3 or 4 relievers?
Yep.
So now you have guys throwing on back-to-back. You know, if for whatever reason New York finds a way to win tonight, then those same guys would have to be throwing on 3 days in a row. So I think those things really make a huge difference in a 3-game series.
It's funny you said that about Crochet kind of having an old school game. Kasey pointed that out earlier in the show as well about him. You know, I'm going to stick with him for a second because how great can he be? Assuming health, of course, Matt. If Crochet stays healthy here, I mean, are we talking legacy stuff? Are we talking Pedro Martinez stuff here? When you watch him, does he have that capability to become an all-time great with this franchise?
Yeah, I think so. He's young and he's got the stuff. Obviously, you have health.
Yeah.
And I think we would all love him to be a Roger Clemens, a Pedro Martinez. And selfishly, I think he's got a little bit to go to get to what Pedro did in the late 90s.
Yep.
On the 3, 4, 5-year run he had there, to me is one of the greatest stretches in starting pitcher history. But you see the stuff and you see the dog, and as long as you don't throw almost 200 innings and have the year that he had without the work ethic and mentality, and for me, and I may be a little bit biased, but I think doing it in the AL East is different than doing it in other places. So that to me is kind of an even further step or kind of further proof of who he is and the ability that he has. I'm excited to watch what he's going to do over the next handful of years. And I think, Breslow deserves a ton of credit for getting this done and not only getting it done, but signing him to the extension to make sure that he's in Boston. And I think everybody in Boston has to be ecstatic about what he did in his first year and what he's continuing to do.
All right, enough with the starters. We're 6 minutes in here, and I got to talk to you about the closer, because you're a closer. How about Chappie last night? Former team, Yankee Stadium, gets in a jam, all the pressure, 101 miles per hour. I'm shutting your lights off. Good night, thanks. Like, this guy's
stressful.
Unbelievable. Matt, what did you see from Chappie?
It's stressful. I think one of the biggest things that needs to be talked about is it's very difficult for somebody to go out in the 8th and then come back out for the 9th. And it's not just going in the 8th. It's a high-stress, one-run, man in scoring position. Like, you have to be on top of your stuff. And the adrenaline high from going in the 8th, getting out of it and then having to sit to then, right, and then your blood pressure and your kind of heart rate comes down, and then you have to get back up for the 9th is a very difficult thing to do. So, Chapman's kind of had this ability to have like A stuff and then A+ stuff. So he goes out there with his A stuff, and then all of a sudden he gets in a jam, and it's not 95, 96 anymore. It's 101 every pitch. And the ability to do that's incredible. Yeah. To me, when was it? He had was it Jazz maybe? He's in a 2-1 count. I think it was Jazz. He's in a 2-1 count, and he lands the 2-1 slider is such a critical pitch. Yeah. And the ability to make that pitch in that situation changes the entire dynamic of the at-bat. Once you get the first strikeout, and truthfully, the first strikeout's the biggest one. Because any ball in play, any deep fly ball scores a run, even a double play scores a run. Now it's a little different. But once you get that first strikeout, you're one pitch away from winning the ball game. So I think the ability to make that happen, and that's why for me it's so important to have relievers and closers who have the ability to strike guys out, is because when you get into jams like that, that's when you can really rely on your stuff to get a big time punch out. And that's what he did.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. I think he needs a cape whenever he pitches, honestly. Like, if that was allowed to be a part of the uniform, I'm putting in my vote for it right this second. Yeah, and the stance fits it, too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is the amount of experience he has is so critical in that situation. If that's a young guy who's never been in the postseason, who's got a few years under his belt, that may be very different. Because you're talking about Yankee Stadium. That crowd is so loud. You cannot hear yourself think. You've got bases loaded, nobody out. And in that moment, if you haven't been in the postseason or you haven't had the amount of experience and success that he has, that moment speeds up on you and things unravel quickly. But he didn't let that happen. And I think that he knows he didn't make bad pitches. I mean, Aaron Judge put a good swing on it. But, like, and Bellinger kind of gets jammed, and so it wasn't like it wasn't like he was making bad pitches and getting crushed. Sometimes that's the way that baseball works, is you can execute pitches and guys get hits. They're getting paid too, and they're good players. But he didn't get away from who he was, and he continued to come after them. Right? I mean, there's no room for error there. Not even hits, but even walks. You start falling behind, then have to throw fastballs and get in the zone, and that's when you get in trouble. So kudos to him. I mean, that's an incredibly difficult situation that he handled like a veteran and a true pro.
Oh, yeah. And I'm so glad he's on our side. That's for sure.
Amen.
There was a lot of conversation too about whether this team was going to be too inexperienced collectively to be able to like compete versus this Yankees team. Kind of touching back on a young guy within the pitching conversation, Bello on the mound tonight, and typically looked at as a Yankees killer. That has been the theme. That has been his label. A little bit of a dip off as of late, but I make the case, Matt, to say that he actually plays very well at Yankee Stadium. He likes the pressure of being on the road, and his game has matured so much, and he's not relying on the same old pitches to get the job done. He has found a lot more versatility in his arsenal. How can he just tune out the noise, tune out the bad starts, and come back to being that guy in Game 2 for this team that won't have a Lucas Giolito?
Right. I think he's got to rely on who he has and who he's been. You know, his last start against the Yankees wasn't his best, but the two prior to that earlier this year were absolutely lights out. And I think he's got to go back and, you know, he'll work with Bailey and AC and the catchers and figure out what worked in those starts and what didn't work in his most recent one against the Yankees. But he's got to trust who he is. And in a first postseason start, the adrenaline's going to be high. He's going to be going crazy and he's going to be amped up. But I think he's got to talk to maybe some of the guys, talk to Crochet. How do you handle that, right? How do you talk to the guys who have been there before and kind of figure out how to handle those situations. But at the end of the day, he's got to just trust his stuff and know that not only does he have a team behind him and the coaching staff behind him, but they're already up 1-0. And I can't stress that enough for a guy coming into a situation like this. Is he's got some room to work with. He's got a fresh bullpen, and they are already up 1-0 in the series. So while, yes, there is pressure because you don't want to go to a kind of winner-take-all game because anything can happen, but he's got some room to work with. And on the other side, the Yankees have hit Rodon a little bit this year. He's given up a couple of runs every time they've faced off. And the Yankees bullpen is kind of the weakness of what that team does on the mound. So I think as long as he keeps this team in the game and keeps the Red Sox in the game and gives them a chance to kind of pound away at Rodon and get to that bullpen early, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Okay, let's put a number on it then, because I said I'm going 5-3 Sox tonight. Kasey's so damn nervous and just upset from game one. She doesn't even want to give a prediction.
I just want to see
so
baseball.
I'm going to go 5-3. I think Bello, if I can get 6 innings, Matt, if I can get 6 innings, 2 or 3 earned runs, 4 or 5 punch outs, I think this team can win this game. Do you believe the Sox win game 2, or you think we're going 3 here?
I think I think the Sox win it in 2. Okay. And I think Bello throws the ball well. I like that 5-6, maybe a couple of runs. But I think the Red Sox are coming off. Like I said, I think with all the pressure on the Yankees, teams tend to play a little bit tight. And if you can deflate, if the Red Sox can scrap a couple of runs across early, Yankee Stadium gets deflated, and it's a very different place to play when that crowd is not completely into the game. Let's not forget, you have Whitlock down there as well. Whitlock can go 2 or 3 innings. You've seen it time and time again, and he's thrown the ball exceptionally well against the Yankees, and he's been in this position before. So I think not having thrown him last night might be the X factor in the game tonight. AC's shown a history. We saw it especially in 18. When he's got a team in the ropes, he goes for the throat, and he's not afraid to. So I think if the Red Sox have that lead at 5, 6, 7, I mean, you're going to see him go for it absolutely, knowing that, right? If you get it done, then you've got a couple of days to kind of recoup.
Okay.
Goes for the
Matt Barnes, you've been to the promised land. You've been to the top. I've been saying I think this team's championship window is wide open. I see duck boat parades here for the next 4 or 5 years with this group. It sounds like you're taking them to beat the Yankees here. I mean, bro, what kind of run are we looking at with this team? Are we talking World Series? What are we talking, Matt Barnes? Are we talking World Series, or is this over in Toronto next round? What do you sort of see when you look at the crystal ball? You know what it takes. Does this team have a championship makeup?
I think once you get to the postseason, everything is completely wide open for everybody. And I think that's the really exciting part about the postseason. I think you need a couple of things. Number one, you need absolute studs at the top of the rotation, which they have. You need guys who can shut it down at the back of the bullpen, which they have. You have guys in the batting order or in the lineup who have the experience of being there. I think last night was Bregman's 100th game in the postseason, which is unbelievable. So having guys who have been there and especially being the veteran leadership that they have, I think plays a huge part in this. Not to mention, you have a manager who has been there time and time and time again and has won it all. And for me, that's a really critical part, because when you get into the postseason, sometimes you see managers overmanage, and that can almost be as detrimental to a team as doing nothing. I mean, AC, even in 18 we saw it. He just has this kind of innate ability to push the right buttons at the right time. In 18, you saw it with a pinch hitter with Nooney coming in and hitting the 3-run bomb, or it was Mitch Moreland in the World Series hitting the homer. And you see it last night. He's got, a number of different lefties on the bench to choose from, and he puts Massa in that situation, and he jumps a first pitch heater and gets a 2 RBI single, right? So I'm not counting this team out anywhere. Honest to God, a team gets hot and they get going, and why not? Why not? They've got they have all of the characteristics and kind of the recipe to succeed.
Totally agree. Before we let you go, Matt, I got to ask you a question, especially from you being from Connecticut, too close to New York, in my opinion. There was some drama before Game 1 because, well, Massachusetts residents, a lot of New England residents were restricted from getting tickets to be a part of this atmosphere, but that just lets you know that enemy territory is going to feel different. How can one just thrive off of being in enemy territory? Because you talk about sucking the oxygen out of that place, and trust me, we saw them get hyped for their team time and time again, and then we saw them get very quiet when the Red Sox decided they were going to take Game 1.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely a little bit different. But I think one of the interesting parts is this team has played in Yankee Stadium a number of times this year. So, yes, it's a little bit louder. Yes, the stakes are a little bit higher. But for me, it wouldn't be as bad as if, I don't know, make it up. Say you were playing in, who else is in there? Like in Seattle, where you haven't played as much, or like when you're in LA and you really don't play there that much, and it's kind of got this mystique of this maybe feel for first timers. But they've played in New York a number of times this year and had success there. So for me, there isn't as much of kind of this aura around being in enemy territory when it's a place that you're so familiar with. So I think you kind of lean on that, and having been there, like you show up and the clubbies are the same and the clubhouse is the same, and you kind of know your way around, and you have this routine at Yankee Stadium with the timing of how they do things, whether it's, your catch or your BP or what the stadium feels like, the food you're going to get. And I think a lot of those things really kind of help settle the nerves a little bit, knowing that you can just settle into a routine. And baseball players and athletes, as we know, are kind of creatures of habit. So being able to repeat that, I think, is really important.
There he is, Red Sox champion Matt Barnes. We appreciate you coming on. Hey, this is going to be a long playoff run, according to you. So let's get you back on here bright and early. We know you're awake in the morning, so we'll get you back on, brother. We appreciate you, man.